Here's the general outline of what we're going to cover today. We'll do a really quick overview of the 101 course, and then we'll just kind of dive into a demo. The demo will include sections about building your audience, which audience would mean like your contact list, then categorizing that contact list into groups, creating a template that you can use for the emails that you'll send out to that group so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, and then sending an email. Again, we will move very fast. I learned from experience that there's just a lot of material. So hopefully the archive of this webinar will serve you well. So with that, let's jump into the quick review of MailChimp 101. Hopefully all this stuff you already know. What is MailChimp? It's a tool that allows you to keep a list of clients and then email them. It does take some work, honestly. There's a bit of jargon, there's a bit of stuff to learn. In my point of view, I think that it's worth that investment of time. The things that it does for us, once you learn them, I feel like you will consider that investment of time worth it. MailChimp allows you to create templates and send them out. Generally speaking, they look pretty nice. And one big advantage of those templates that they have is that they look good on all devices. So they look good on a phone, they look good on a desktop, and everything in between. In contrast, our print, like kind of the older way of doing things in terms of print, doesn't necessarily look good on all devices. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience of trying to look at a PDF on a phone, especially a PDF. I'm thinking specifically of some newsletters that are just jam-packed with information. Wonderful, wonderful information. But on a phone, it doesn't resize itself. It doesn't change and fit your phone. And you're doing a lot of this kind of motion on your phone, and it's kind of difficult to use. In contrast to that, I think that MailChimp does a great job of just kind of automatically, without you having to think about it too much, making your newsletters attractive or at least reasonable on all kinds of devices. You saw the note there about Healthy Georgia being a PDF. It's true, and it's hard to change for all of us, I would say. Another huge thing with MailChimp is that you can measure the results of your newsletters. And so the difference is you send out a newsletter to all of the people in your email, in your Outlook inbox or Outlook list or whatever. You might send it to 1 million people. That's all indirect engagement. It's the same as like I went to the expo and 1 million people wandered by my booth, but I didn't talk to any of them because you weren't able to prove that you talked to them. MailChimp does this really small thing that's really important, which is it tells you which ones of those people actually opened your email. And opened your email is the same thing, believe it or not, as that person wandering into your booth at the expo or engaging with your thing. You're able to prove that they came and interacted. And just like that, you can take that number on the screen here. You see 58 and 19. Take that number right into Georgia Counts and say that that's direct engagement. I think that's pretty awesome, and in and of itself, a reason to use MailChimp as a platform. Most people can use the free MailChimp plan. So again, this is 101 material, but you can have 2,000 clients and you can email those 2,000 clients 5 times a month. Most people don't even come close to meeting that threshold. If you have a monthly newsletter, you could send it out once a month, to 2,000 people and you would be good. Sorry about that. If you do run up to that threshold, you can pay for a plan. And there are ways to get a discount. I think it's a 15% discount for nonprofits. It's kind of hard to find. Contact us if you want to get a paid plan, and we'll help you through. Other differences really quick between the free plan and the paid plan. The paid plan has these advantages. You get slightly fancier email templates. In my opinion, not a big deal. You get slightly better support from MailChimp itself. So you have access to like direct access to email them or something like that, I think. In my opinion, it's nice, but not totally critical. And then obviously this, you get more clients. I think those are the 3 main advantages that I see of the paid account. No matter what, though, once you create a MailChimp account, if you haven't already done this, please give OIT access to help manage your account. And what that does for us is a few things. One, it helps us with continuity. If you leave, or if you want to give access to another person, by giving us access, we can kind of bridge the gap there and make sure that the next person gets access to that account. It also really allows us to see what you see. And so it's the difference between sending an email with all these words in it that we have to try to interpret and just saying, can you please come into my account and see what I'm seeing and help me figure it out? It makes it so much easier for us. Email us at caesweb at uga.edu, and maybe Robbie can put that into the chat, and you'll see it a few times. CAES web at uga.edu, and we'll start that process. And you'll want to mark us as admin, not just manager. And that gives us, don't be scared, promise, but that gives us full privileges in your account to kind of do what we need to do. All right, so that is a review of MailChimp 101. Before I go any further, Robbie, tell me from the chat if we've got anything that would prevent me from diving into this demo.
There are no questions at this time, so I think we're good to continue.
All right, so
I do want to remind everybody before you dive in, if you haven't already, enter your name into the chat. That's what I'm using to take roll today. So
that's a good reminder. Thank you, Robbie. Okay, so chapter 1, first thing that we're going to talk about is building your audience. So what I assume is that you are somewhere in this category, like either you don't have any clients at all in your MailChimp account, you've just started it, or you've got a few, but you need to import more. So what we're going to talk about is various ways, and I'm going to talk about one main way, and then a few other ways that I'll kind of mention to get all of your clients into MailChimp. So the first thing is that you can add people one by one. So if you, say that you conduct a training or something like that, or you have a meeting and you ask people, would you like, here's a piece of paper, or put your name in the chat if you want to receive our newsletter, and people do that, then you have their consent. You can come in here and add those people one by one. So what you would do is click on audience. You see the tabs up here at the top left. You click on audience, and then you would click on, in the manage audience drop down here on the right hand side, you would click on add a subscriber. And from there, it's really straightforward. There's not a whole lot to talk about. That's pretty much all it is. You add their email address, and then I would highly, highly recommend that you add first name and last name. Things go way better for you in the long run if you do that. And then optionally, you can add address and phone number. And really, that's for you. Like, are you going to need it in the future? And if you're not going to need it, if you're not going to send out mailings, then you probably don't need address. Same with phone number. There's this option to create tags. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go. Tags are one way to group people, but it's not the only way. And then you want to say, like, yes, this person gave me permission. And I would say here, we're going to talk about this in a second, but like, make sure that you do have permission. And then you click subscribe, and that's that. So I'm not going to do it right now because it's really that simple. Instead, I'm going to jump over to one more thing that you can do, which is to import a lot of people by spreadsheet. So again, go up to the audience tab. We're working with an audience. What does an audience mean? An audience is the people that are listening to you. So all of your contacts. So you click on audience, you want to manage the audience, and then there's another option for importing your contacts. And then there's some options here for CSV or other options. Again, it's gonna guide you through that process, and it's gonna ask. You're going to upload it, and then it's going to ask you, like, which column is the first name field, which column is the last name field, and so forth. I'm not going to do this. Instead, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to encourage you to not do this if you can. If you have to, if there is no other option for you but to upload a list of people or a spreadsheet of people, here's what you need to know. If your email addresses are old, if they don't work anymore, or if they look generic, like help@business.com, or even, it's not a person, it's an email address of a company or something like that. So old doesn't work, it's a company, or, forbid, but like if it's a listserv address. MailChimp is very, very strict about spam. So think about this. MailChimp is this company that allows you to send emails to people. You all are very well-intentioned, but there are some people that are not well-intentioned. And what they want to do is send you all the spam in the world that you know what that spam looks like in your email box, right? And you know that you hate it. It is very easy to create an account in MailChimp and start sending out emails to everyone in the world. MailChimp really wants to prevent bad actors from sending bad emails. And so one of the measures, one of the ways that they prevent it is by looking at the emails that you upload and kind of like doing a smell test. Like, does it look right? Does it seem right? Does it act right? And if you've got old email addresses, if you've got email addresses that like look like listserv email addresses or anything like that, it will flag you and potentially even lock down your account and say you can't send email addresses. And this is their mechanism for making sure that nobody sends spam. Why am I spending like 3-4 minutes now talking about this? It's because people really have, like our users, some of you even maybe on this call, have been locked down for that. And MailChimp doesn't always tell us why even. They just have this automated system of like going in and looking at it and seeing if it looks wrong. So all that to say, it sounds like a dire warning. If you need to upload a CSV, what you do is you clean it up. You make sure that you've got names for everybody. You've got a first name, you've got a last name, and then you make sure that that email address really works. Like, when was the last time that you sent to it? Did it actually get to the person that you sent to? When was the last time that that person gave you permission? Was it 10 years ago? Was it 20 years ago? If so, maybe don't use that email address. If you're willing to put in that much work, then upload away and cross your fingers that everything goes well. I'm going to show you the safe and polite way to get people into your MailChimp. And that is to send them a link that says, hey, you're a current client of mine. Would you please, I'm transferring to this new service. You don't have to say the word MailChimp, but I really would like you to sign up for my new newsletter, or whatever you want to say. Try to be kind and polite and like, encouraging. And here's a link to a sign up form. Please sign up. It's safe and it's polite. It will never get you in trouble. It's the right way to do it. So here's how you do it. Click on the audience tab like we have done before. And then again, like we've done before, the manage audience dropdown. And what you're going to click on is in the sign up form option. And you'll see a number of different sub options of types of sign up forms. The one that we are interested in is the form builder. It's a little bit confusing, exactly what is a form builder. The way that I think about it is there's only one sign up form that I'm always going to send out. And I just access that one sign up form by clicking on this form builder. So I just kind of mentally translate form builder into my sign up form. So click on form builder, and there's a bunch of options. Let's keep it simple. Let's stick with sign up form. And the first thing that I want you to notice is this sign up form URL. That is the thing that you're going to take into your Outlook or whatever and send to people and say like, hey, I've got this new sign up form, and then boom, that URL, that link, and let them click on it and fill it out. Let's look at what your sign up form is going to look like by default with no changes, more or less. It'll more or less look like this. So I'm going to copy this and then take it into a new tab and look at it. And it's real basic. It's going to have the name of my, I don't know what it is, the name of my account or something like that. Thrift County Cooperative Extension, in this case, is what I named my MailChimp account. And then it's going to have the 3 basic fields: email, first name, and last name, and then a subscribe button. If you make basically 0 changes to this, you'll be fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few options for adding a few fields to this to make it a little bit nicer. So starting from the top, I'm looking at sign up forms, and the first thing, like I mentioned, is this URL. Then you come into this section where it's got, I want you to see with me these 3 tabs. Don't worry about the translated one. If you're interested in that, we can talk about it later. The 2 that we're going to talk about real quickly: build it and design it. So the build it tab here that I'm hovering over is going to let you change what fields you collect. Again, there's a balance between too many, people don't fill it out, and like getting information that you really use. So it's kind of up to you to find that balance. Pros and cons both ways. And then design it is going to let you do many terrible things to make your sign-up form look worse in a lot of cases. My recommendation is to go with a light touch and maybe add a logo and maybe color the buttons a little bit differently, but don't do too much. It's easier to make it look bad than to make it look better in general. So let's start with build it real quick. What you should notice is that you see sections, and as you kind of hover over them, they highlight, and you can click on one of the sections, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see options for editing that particular field or section of the form. So email address is not really worth talking about because you don't really want to mess with it. Same with first name and last name. Unless you want to make those things required. Email address is obviously going to be required, but first and last name, if you want to require it, you can check that this is a required field if you would like. And honestly, that's not a terrible idea. So if you want to do that, click on the field, click on required, and then you're going to want to click on the save field button. And you do that, you kind of see it come back, and you're done. That's all you have to do. And I'll do the same thing for first name. If you see these blue shaded regions, it probably is impossible to see on my screen, but what is in the background of that is hidden. It's hidden. So let me click on it real quick. So right now, address is a potential field that I could be collecting. But if you notice, field visibility here on the right side is marked as hidden. And so what that means is like, it's a real field that I could be collecting. I'm just not going to show it on my form. And I'm not going to even show my user that it's possible to fill it out. If I want to, and I don't actually, unless you're going to actually mail people things, you don't probably want address. But say that I did. I would just click visible, again in this right-hand section, and then save. And I'm going to go up and take this URL, this sign up form URL. I'm going to open a new tab, paste it in. And what you'll see is that address is all of a sudden magically there. That's all you had to do. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go ahead and mark it back hidden because I personally don't want it to be visible. And I'm going to show you one or two other options for adding fields to your sign-up form. So if you'll notice here on the right-hand side, there's also two tabs. There's always more tabs. Oh my goodness, MailChimp, so many tabs. So I'm going to go back to this add a field, and I see that there's a number of different options. So hypothetically, if I wanted to collect some additional information in, like I could drag this text area, I think. It's not letting me drag. Oh, I just click on it, and it adds it at the bottom, I think. So right now it's untitled. I could say, I highlighted it. I'd say like, okay, this is going to be, areas of interest or whatever. And I would ask the user to like fill out their areas of interest. So play around with that if you want to. I'm going to show you a better way to do that particular task in a minute. But the point is, you have the ability to add to and edit the list of fields that a person sees. In general, what I would say is you definitely want first and last name, and you can hide anything that you don't want to see. Okay, so let me jump real quickly now into designing the form, and I'm going to show you two quick things that you can do to spruce it up. So again, I'm going to click on this Design It tab. There's a bunch of sub-tabs. There's always more tabs in MailChimp. And I'm going to go to, what I really want to do is I want to add, instead of Thrift County Cooperative Extension, here in the header, I want to use an image. And if I hover over that area, I see that I have this little pop-up menu. And one of the options is use an image. That's what I want to do. I'm going to click on use an image. It automatically takes me into my library of things that I've uploaded to MailChimp. If I've never uploaded an image before or a logo before, it's easy to do that. There's this button in the top right corner, upload. You just click that, upload your logo, and you're good. I already have uploaded it, so I'm going to just select it, and now I can insert this new logo. Before it inserts it into my sign-up form, however, it's going to ask me for a sanity check. Like, hey, your image is 2,496 pixels wide. Is that cool? And I can say either yes or no. I can tell you from experience that 2,400 or 2,500 pixels wide is really big and probably too big. You can also add a link to your website. So for OIT, that would be oit.cas.uga.edu. And click insert into your image, into your sign-up form, and there you go. Now you have a logo at the top. The next thing that you may want to do, and it's not a big deal, is you can change the color of like any of these elements, any of the fields, or what I'm going to show you is in particular is how to change the color of the button at the bottom. Excuse me. So you have these sub items again. So page, It's going to let you change the background color of the page. Don't do it, please. Body, going to let you change the background color of the body. In general, simple is good. Clean is good. It helps with like contrast. MailChimp has done a good job already of like making a form that basically everybody can use. So forms is going to have even more sub options, and one of those is buttons. So right now I've got this kind of gray button. Here's a good reason why you might want to change the color of it. If you've got a 4-H program and you have a 4-H logo at the top with the clover, that's a specific shade of green. It might make sense to make that button at the bottom green. So you could come over here and play around with different shades of green until you found exactly the right color green that you wanted. Select it, and then you just kind of click off of this color area back onto the kind of the main part of the page, and just like that, it has changed the color of my button in this case. Lots of other options that you can play around with. So if you want to see, did my change take effect? All you have to do is grab that URL again and go to a web page and enter it. And it automatically is going to show you what you've just saved, and also what a normal user is going to see. If I sent out this link in an email right now, this is exactly what my users would see. Although perhaps if they were on a phone, they would see something more like this. Okay, how did I do that? I hit Control-Shift-M. So now what I would like to do is that, let's go back to where we started. The task is, how do I get people into my MailChimp? And the answer, the thing that I recommend by far, is the polite thing and the safe thing, which is to somehow get your sign-up form in front of them. And often that's going to be by emailing your current list of clients this link right here. There are other ways that you can do it too, but let's just follow that one trail through all the way. I'm going to take OIT's sign-up form. I want to show it to you first. This is like our real MailChimp sign-up form. And if you are not a current subscriber to the OIT newsletter, we send it out. We don't really have updates every week, but a few times a month at least, we will send out a newsletter with any kind of updates that OIT has. They're aimed at you. We don't write them in a super, super technical way. We write them for people like you. So if you're not already a subscriber, it would be great for you to subscribe to this. So here's what you would do. So I've got this URL. It's something like this. We call them like an EEP URL because it's got EEP at the beginning. They're kind of cute. So you would go into your email client, and I'm going to not really use my email client. I'm going to use the extension training system because that's where I have all of your email addresses. And I'm going to show you what this would look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this particular session real quick. And it's this one, 34. And I'm going to go to email roster. And I'm going to email every single one of you. Hey, would you please, and this is where you would want to kind of spend your time thinking, how do I write an email that would make somebody like happy to click on this link? Would you please sign up? I'm not going to spend the time to do that. Would you please sign up for my email? We have a new newsletter coming out. You can kind of sell it like there's something new. We have a new newsletter coming out, and we're really excited about it. We need you to sign up again and confirm that you are interested. Maybe something like that. Confirm that you are interested in our service or in our newsletter. And then you put in the link. You just paste in the link to your thing. I'm going to send this right now, and all of you in your inbox are going to get an email that has this message with this link. All you have to do now to get the OIT newsletter is click on that link, fill it out, and then you're in the loop. So again, that is the method that I recommend for getting clients into your MailChimp account. A few other things to mention that you may be thinking about. What about using Facebook? That is definitely an option, and a lot of people do it, and it's not that hard. When we follow up from this webinar with additional resources, we'll send a link to the webinar recording, and included in that will be a few resources for how to get started connecting your Facebook account with MailChimp, and that will help you kind of down that path. You can also, and you should, if you have a county website, which many or most of you do, or if you have a blog, you should also put a sign-up form on those websites so that you're passively getting people to sign up. And if you're ever like leading a webinar somewhere, or you're training somebody, or you're in a club meeting or whatever, you can say, go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. And it's as easy as that. As long as the person can get to your website, they can get to your sign-up form. Again, in the follow-up email that we'll send out, we'll have links for how to do those things, and I'm not going to try to show you that right now in the interest of time. So before we jump into chapter 2, let me pause. I know we're going fast. Robbie, you tell me, how are we doing?
We have a question. Are the emails responsive? Meaning, would the logo stay the same size as the text boxes on a mobile device? And is it template specific?
I think, Robbie, you correct me, and whoever wrote this, correct me if I misunderstand the question. But I think the question is essentially, if I use MailChimp, is it going to look pretty good no matter what? Like if somebody uses a phone, is it going to look good? If they use whatever, if they resize it, is it going to look good? And the answer to that is yes, unless you make a super complicated email template. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to show you how to create a fairly simple one that will definitely be automatically resized. I mean, they're all going to be resized. It's just that sometimes if you make a really complicated template with lots of columns and a lot of images floated everywhere, those can sometimes look worse on a phone for unanticipated reasons. In general, MailChimp makes that easy as far as like the responsiveness of it. I hope that answered the question. Let me know if not.
They said yes, it did answer the question.
I'm glad. Okay, so are we good to move along?
I think so.
Okay. So chapter 2, categorizing your list. Let's see, hold on. Here we go. So back in MailChimp, we're still going to use this audience tab. We're still working with generally our list of clients. And we'll be done with this, this audience tab, I hope, in a minute or two. So first of all, let me talk about two ways of doing things in MailChimp really quick. So you've got this list of clients that's really big, potentially thousands of people. And that's the list of people, like I'm just imagining that it's like a county office, and this is how many people our county office as a whole, every agent, every program assistant, that everybody touches. But what we want to do is we want to kind of carve out little pieces of that so that we can email just the archery club or just the Cattlemen's Association. There are two ways in MailChimp to do that. One way is by using tags, and you probably saw those tags just a little while ago when we were looking at adding a new client. You would use tags to categorize if you wanted to do all the work, and there might be really valid reasons to do that. If your list of clients is pretty small, or if you know them all by name, or if you've like invited them to sign up and then boom, there's a new person in MailChimp and you know where they should be categorized. If you've got some Clover buds or whatever and you see their name in MailChimp, you know that they're a Clover bud because you know their name. Those are instances where tags work really well as a way to group people. Again, this is something that we're not going to cover, and I'll send out a link to the help documentation after this presentation. The other method of categorizing people is if you're overwhelmed with the task of categorizing and if you want the person that's signing up to do all the work and to indicate what group they're in, and you trust them to do that, you can create groups, and then you can put those groups into your sign-up form, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So if you noticed on our sign-up form, we didn't have any groups, and that's because we hadn't set up any groups. So let me show you how to set up groups in MailChimp. You click on the audience tab again. Again, on the manage audience dropdown, we're going to go manage contacts. This is kind of where you do all of your management of your main list, and there's an option for groups, and that's where we will create our groups. Notice I haven't created any yet, but there's a button that says create groups. This is actually pretty easy. Good job, MailChimp. So the first decision that you have is like, more or less, are people going to be in only one group, or are they going to be in multiple groups? If they're going to be in more than one, you say checkboxes. And if they can be in only one, you say either radio buttons or a dropdown. For our purposes, I'm going to say people can be in more than one group, and I'll leave it as checkboxes. And then I'm going to say, now, the limit to what you can do with this is up to your imagination. But for me, I'm going to say your interests is kind of a generic way to ask. And we'll say that I'm an A&R, most of my contacts are A&R, and we'll say like Cattlemen's Association, and I'm making this stuff up. So if this is like never a real world example, I'm sorry. Cattlemen's Association, say like county commissioners. And you could go further, but I'll stop there. And then I'm going to click save. That list there should contain every group that you want. So it's probably going to be more than 2, although it could be 2 if you want. Okay, so at that point, there's other options for like import people into those groups if you know what they are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to confirm that our sign-up form is magically updated, which it should be. So I'm going to go back to audience, click on manage, again, sign-up forms, and I'm going to take that from form builder. I'm going to take that URL that we've been working with and open it in a new tab. And you'll notice that those groups were automatically added. So we are now done with that audience tab finally. And we're going to get to move to a new tab, and that is going to be the campaigns tab. So click on campaigns. It's pretty easy to get started. What we're going to do is click on the create campaign. When you see the word campaign, what you should think in your head is, I'm about to send an email. And it may be a one-time email that I send, or it may be an email that I schedule and send over and over and over. But either way, it's a campaign. Campaign just means email. And now if I go back and look in audience, and again, manage audience, and then I manage contacts, and I look at all of my contacts, so view all contacts, I should see, wow, y'all are fast. I should see that many of you have already tagged your interest. Now, if I happen to know that Robbie Thrift is also in the Cattlemen's Association, I can just click on him and edit his groups. And so I can add Cattlemen's Association by hand. Obviously, if you've got existing contacts, you'll need to do something like that. Click save, Robbie has been updated. Okay, so that's awesome. Just to point out, you can also add tags. So again, the main difference here is like, are you gonna do all the work? Use tags. Do you want your users to do the work? Use groups. Okay, so now that we have some data in there for our groups, what I want to do is shift to sending a campaign. We've been working completely with this audience tab. We've been completely managing that list of clients. Now we're going to switch to this other idea, which is to send a campaign. Sending a campaign, you can translate it in your mind to basically send an email. I'm going to click on campaign, and we're going to create a new one. Notice that there's a button in the top right. Click on create a campaign. What kind of campaign is it? There's a lot of different kinds. So social posts, like we talked about a minute ago. In this case, it's just going to be an email campaign. Most of the time, that is what you are going to do. So for this one, I'm going to say that this particular campaign is a monthly Cattlemen's Association newsletter. It could be anything. This is just an example. And I gave that monthly newsletter, which is going to be a recurring thing, a name. And now here's the crucial part about those groups that we were adding. In the to field, it's not going to send to all 8 because we only want to send Cattlemen's Association. And there's no magic to, I just gave it the name Cattlemen's Association monthly newsletter. But here I'm going to have to actually refine it so that MailChimp knows who's in the Cattlemen's Association. So to do that, I say from my overall audience, I'm going to specify a segment or a group. So if you notice segment or tag, I picked this option that says group or new segment. And now I'm going to create a new segment of my overall audience and say that I want the contact to match the following conditions. There's only one of them really, and that is that the group, which I called your interests. So notice in the list here, groups, your interests, that's just the name that I've picked, is one of Cattlemen's Association. It's actually just only Cattlemen's Association. And that's it. That's all I have to do in order to send an email just to the Cattlemen's Association. notice that there's a field called personalize the to field. And what that does is it's going to, when it sends the email, it's going to say, hey, Ben, here's a new newsletter. It's always a good idea. It increases the number of opens for your emails by a lot. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to say, what do you want to put in that? And I think normally a safe bet is first name. Going back all the way, this is why it's one of the reasons why it's really important to collect names, first name and last name. And I'm going to click save. It kind of jumps me down weirdly in the page there. So now I have customized my to field to limit to a group, and to when I send to that group, it's going to use their first name in the email. I can customize if I want to the from, but it's just going to send from me by default, which I think is good. In general, having a personal name like Ben is a little bit better than saying the Thrift County office is emailing you, because that's kind of impersonal. I can add a subject. And you kind of want to think about the subject a little bit, because MailChimp actually gives you some recommendations for that. It kind of matters. You think like some emails, when you see the subject line, you just don't even click on it because the subject isn't good. So I clicked on create or design the email. And the first thing that it says is, what template do you want to use? Now, going back to what we said about the pricing plans, the free plan, this is kind of where it makes a difference. These are all very basic templates. But I think that that's okay, and actually good. Basic is good, simple is good, clean is good. So I'm going to choose this one column template. And let me talk I think this is kind of the key thing for me. It took me a little while to figure out the navigation around all this stuff. So let me point out a few things that can get you in trouble. So you are going to click over here on the left-hand side to edit stuff. When you click on something, say I want to edit the body, it's going to change what I see in the right-hand side. In order to get that right-hand side to go away, you have to click on Save and Close. That's the key. And then I get back the stuff that I used to see on the right-hand side. So, all right, let me hit some high points about how to customize this email and then save it as a template. So first of all, the logo. I would say use the logo that's particular to this newsletter. So this would be like Cattlemen's Association. So I'm going to click on the little pencil, which means edit. And I'm going to click on replace, or upload in this case. And I have already done the work of uploading, but if I hadn't, then I would click this upload button. Click on the banner that you want and insert. You can change how big it is. We'll leave it at 100%. You want this banner to be correctly sized, and about 1200 pixels wide is optimal. Click Save and Close. And then let's do some other kind of like big picture stuff. So like that's the top logo. We can also, if we want to, add a logo to the bottom for, like, for instance, our county, your county logo. So what you would do is drag an image, which you'll see in these blocks over here on the right, and then it's going to kind of give you options as you kind of hover over. So right now I'm dragging and I'm holding down, and you let go wherever you want to, and then it creates this like kind of a placeholder for where that image is going to go. Again, click Edit. Oh, it already did. And then we'll say Upload an image. And what I'm going to do here is kind of our like institutional logo. So I've already, again, got it uploaded. You can easily upload a new one if you haven't already done that. Click Insert. And for this one, to me, it just looks a little bit too big. So what I'm going to do is kind of make it a little bit smaller. Go down to like half size. What you'll see also is that it says this image is so big that it might cause slow load times or get clipped in people's inboxes. And so there's this little thing that says, let's fix it. If you see that, always do it. It's a good thing. Just by clicking save, if you notice, it like automatically changed the dimensions down there in the bottom left to 1200, which is good. MailChimp is helping you out. It's doing what you ought to do. I'm going to close it for the sake of the next webinar and not actually resize it. So I've uploaded my image, I've resized it down to 50, click save, and that's that. I would say most of the rest of the footer is great already. You can leave it as is. The social media blocks, you're going to want to click edit there, and you can edit as you see fit any of the links that you have there. Click again, say that you like decide, oh, I didn't want to change. It's tempting to like, now I'm confused because I want to like add an image or something like that, and there's no way to do it. You kind of always have to, whether you've made a change or not, you click that save and close button. Okay, so the last thing on this is the main part of the email. In the interest of time, I'm going to save the part where you can create columns. I was going to show you how to do that. Let me say this, and I'll do that in a few minutes for those that are interested in it. But let me say this about columns. In general, I would recommend not using columns. And the reason is that it is way easier to make bad-looking columns than it is to make good-looking columns. You can create columns fairly easily, but doing it well, where everything is laid out in a way that is easy to read on all devices, like again, think about your phone and things like that. In general, the more complex your page layout is, the more likely it is that it's not going to look wonderful on every device. So for OITs, newsletters, and for many of the newsletters that I like reading, I scroll generally again on my phone because that's where I'm often reading email, just top to bottom. And so one big column is actually kind of great. So at this point, real quickly, you can click if you want to, if you've made some changes that you want to apply to any future template. So like, for instance, the Facebook page or the logo down here. In the top black navigation bar, I can say, save this design as a template. And then I'm going to want to name it like basic template with logo, something like that, and click save. I would want to do this, by the way, before I fully finish this template. I want to do this at a point where it was kind of generic, that fit every future template that I wanted to, email that I wanted to send. Click save, and then that's going to save that template for later use. For now, I'm going to return to the campaign and continue working. Once you edit, I'll tell you what, let me do this. Just for those of you that want to see how to do the Healthy Georgia Connections thing and are still here, let's do that real quick. So read our state newsletter or whatever you want to say up there. But then here's the critical thing. So I'm going to say, like, that's all the text. You just write whatever text you want to write and click save and close. The main thing that you're going to need to know is that you want to drag over a button and put it wherever you want on the page. You can't embed it in the text. It has to kind of go, it would go at the end of the column kind of thing, like maybe before the footer or something like that. You can tell how MailChimp is kind of oriented because it says buy now. We're going to change that to say like download the newsletter or whatever we want to say. And then we're going to link to, instead of a web address, we're going to link to a file. And where does the file come from? We're about to upload it. So click on file, and then you just click upload and then upload that Healthy Georgia Connections PDF. I've already got something uploaded, I think. And so I'm just going to insert. And then, boom, you have a button. And this is basically all you would do for Healthy Georgia Connections. You would kind of brand it. You would say Thrift County, weekly newsletter, or whatever you want to say at the top. You write whatever text you want in this kind of field, and then include a button like we just saw to that newsletter. And then save and close. Click continue. And you're done. And you click send, and it will send that email. Now, at that point, you've already sent that one email. You can send it again anytime you want to. You can go back into a campaign, create a new campaign, send an email. So say it was a different one, or just say that you could even do this like separately for each month if you want to. So April newsletter or whatever, begin. And now, do the same thing if you want to with the groups and segments, but you don't have to. Again, I would personalize the to field, save. And then when I go to design, what I should be able to do here is in the tabs, click on Saved Templates and click on My Saved Template. And that will import that template. Notice that it doesn't have that PDF button. Why? Because I saved it before I had the PDF button, which is kind of good because it was the PDF button for the other version, right? And then edit it as you will and send. You're good to go. Okay, so that is actually, unbelievably, very fast, all the information that I wanted to cover. So Robbie, if you wouldn't mind kind of looking at the chat and seeing if there are questions. I sure hope that we didn't move too fast there at the end. That was sort of too bad. Just a lot of information to cover. But yeah, if you have more questions and you're able to stay, let us know what those questions are. And if not, have a really awesome day and weekend, and hope that your day off on Monday is wonderful.
We do have one question. It says, we do not use the extension template that was required. Maybe that was once required.
I bet so. Yeah, I don't know if it was ever required. I don't know. It may have been. Here's the thing on that previous template. Okay, a few things. One, it was handwritten, and it was handwritten in maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. And in internet years, that's really old. So it hasn't, it still works fine, but it's in danger of becoming outdated. That's problem number one. Problem number two, and the reason that we don't recommend it anymore, is that you can only use that template if you have the paid version of MailChimp. That's a great question, though. I hope that answered it, and if not, let me know by the chat, or just by unmuting yourself at this point.
The next question, when designing the newsletter, how do you get to the create or design email? They missed that step.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so real quickly, and then you can, by chat, tell us if this answers it or not. So if I'm on campaigns, notice that it's got these campaigns already. So let me click on one of them and kind of get back to where we were. It's got this main page that you're going to see with these sections like the to, the from, the subject, and the content. And the content is going to have a button that either says like create, design it, or since we've already started, it's going to say edit it. And so I'll click to edit it. Does that answer the question, hopefully?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. For those of you that are still here, I'd be happy to hear any kind of feedback that you have too, like what you might want to hear next in the next webinar, or how this one went. Was anything frustrating or not clear to you?
Ben, it was real helpful. It's very similar to how we do the WordPress as far as the block style, things like that. It works very much. But answering how to set up the design your email, which I haven't done before, so that helps a bit, and then the contacts. If we have contacts already, like you said, we can just go ahead and move them over to this program. Is that correct? Without asking them.
It's true. So with all the caveats that I probably spent too much, I think we spent all the extra time in the session with all the caveats. Make sure that it's a clean list, because we've had 3 or 4 different counties have their MailChimp accounts completely locked down without explanation after importing a spreadsheet of clients. So is it technically okay? Yes. Is it fraught? Yes. What can you do? Make sure that every single email address that you upload is a good email address and has a first name and a last name. That's my suggestion. And make sure that it goes to a person, that it's like, ben@gmail.com rather than like a business email address or something like that. Again, it's fraud. So the alternative to uploading them is to email them a link to your sign up form and hoping that they all click on it. I know that's not awesome.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
I really appreciated this. I missed the 101 training, and I'm going to go back and rewatch that recording, but I appreciated the way that you not only described how to do things, but why this was important, so we can kind of head off any pitfalls we might run into, like the one that you just suggested about getting locked down as well. And then like even on the screen now, walking us through this, and I'm a visual learner, so having it pop up and I can see, okay, this is, if you click on this is what happens, is super duper helpful. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. That's good feedback. Some of the things that you might have missed from the first one that I think are super cool. I mean, to me, the reason that I'm doing this is because MailChimp, and let me just show you, since you didn't see it. Let's see, I haven't sent out any campaigns, so how would I do this? Well, you would go to campaigns and you can once you send out the campaign, it's really not that hard to look at how many people opened it. And if you read all the Georgia Counts rules and all that kind of stuff, those are direct contacts, or I guess it's called direct engagement or whatever. It's not indirect anymore. So visits to your website, indirect. If you send an email to 1,000 people with a PDF to the Georgia newsletter or whatever. So you send an email in some like your Outlook, and every single person opens it, and you don't know that they opened it. Indirect, that's 1,000 people indirectly that you've contacted. MailChimp allows you to like really track who opened what and who clicked on what, and you can count all of that stuff as direct engagement, which is the real deal. That's it's kind of silly that it works that way, because you might be really contacting and making a difference in all the other people that you're contacting in other ways, but MailChimp just gives you that number, which is really cool. We're down to 13 folks. Happy to stay on for y'all. Do you have any questions or additional comments? Anything we can do to make this better next time? If not, again, bye. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.